Let's see. Yeah, I think we just need to check with Andrea and or Patty, but we will tee up Chair Booth for standards and assessment.
Had an opportunity. Can you push me on?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Thank you. So we've had several opportunities to meet since our last gathering here together, and accomplished a lot of good work. There were some important information items that are included in your backup, which we hope you'll have a chance to read and study. And then we've met on the 3rd, the 14th, 28th, and the 30th. And if it's all right, I would like to combine all of the various motions that have been made throughout the course of those many meetings. And then probably some of you will want to separate some things out. That'll be fine. But the committee moves that the board approve the following CTE courses as amended, including any technical changes. If up on the board, we could actually list them: Agricultural Science 1 and 2, Animal Science 1, 2, Equine Science 1, 2, Guide Dog Training, Small and Companion Animal Science, Veterinary Assistant 1 and 2, Food Products and Processing, Sports and Outdoor Recreation Marketing, Network Fundamentals, Mechanical Engineering Design 3, Emergency Medical Technician, Emergency Medical Response, Nurse Assistant, Pharmacy Technician, Surgical Technician, Cosmetology, Nail Technician, Basic Esthetician, whatever that word is, and Skincare, Hair Design, Machining 1, 2, and 3, Professional Driver, CTE Internship, Food and Nutrition, Architectural Design 1, 2, and 3, Digital Audio 1 and 2, Radio Production 1 and 2, Commercial Photography 1, Computer Systems 1 and 2, Network Fundamentals, Introduction to 3D Printing, Teaching as a Profession 1, Mechanical Engineering Design 1 and 2 and 3, Fire Science Introduction, Fire Science Safety and Survival, Fire Science Fire Behavior and Combustion, Business Office Specialist, Business Math and Personal Finance, Digital Business Applications, Economics, Influencer and Content Marketing, Real Estate, Professional Driver, Aviation Maintenance 1 and 2, Aviation History, Air Transportation, Aircraft Systems, Private Pilot, Flight Simulator. That's the motion.
Second. And Chair Booth, just the list of things is kind of a testament to a heck of a lot of work. That
It is.
Covered a wide number of topics. So thank you for all the work that your committee put in on this. It's an important subject and a ton of discussion. I've listened to a good portion of it, still have some, but thank you for bringing that forward. That's before the body now, and let's see if we have comment, questions, etc. Who was up first? Member Wood. Okay, Member Wood.
I would like to divide out Commercial Photography 1, Economics, Teaching as a Profession 1, Fire Science Introduction, and Fire Science Safety and Survival.
Okay, is there a second? Motion is to divide.
Second.
Been seconded by Member Lear, I believe. Back to you for discussion, Member Wood.
Are you ready to go ahead then?
Well, to explain the basis for the motion, right?
Okay.
The motion is so the motion right now is to divide, so we're not going to substance, but if you want to explain the reasons for the division.
I have a handful, it's like 1 to 2 motions per of those, just some clarification. I have ran them by staff and would like to clarify a few of the standards.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion to divide? Member Bogus? Okay. That would be in order. What's the amendment?
The amendment would be to divide them all.
To divide them all?
Yep. Well. The ones up for amendment. No, I would move to divide them all. Okay. And I realize where that's gonna go, but if I can't vote on them one at a time, I have to vote no.
You're amending the,
So the amendment would be to remove the courses listed and just motion to divide.
What I'm just trying to clarify and then make sure that you understand, if you're amending the motion, you would be amending this motion, which would only pertain to those. Just so you know what you're motioning.
Or that could be a substitute motion, couldn't it? If she wants to
If she
divide
wanted,
everything,
she just didn't say
a
something.
motion to
So
amend is basically.
Then I would sub it with a motion to divide. Just period, a motion to
All
divide.
right, so the motion to amend is to substitute the division of those particular listed topics from the rest to instead divide each and every one of those topics that came out of committee, 1 through, what is it, 60? 1 through 61, okay? Does that make sense? So Member Wood's motion was to divide out the listed subjects here. Does that capture it correctly, what you were isolating out? So, well, hold on, let's see. Can we scroll down to Member Wood's? Okay. So Member Wood's, Member Wood's motion is to separate or divide those listed topics: commercial photography 1, economics, teaching as profession 1, fire science introduction, fire science safety and survival, to separate those topics from the full list of 61 for separate consideration. Substitute motion for Member Bogus is to divide each and every one of the 61 listed topics that are before the board. So do we have a second to the motion, the substitute motion, or the motion to substitute? Member Green seconded. Okay. Member Bogus, do you want to speak to your motion, the substitute motion to separate all 61?
So one of the ongoing concerns of my constituents is that this board passes things in big, massive motions with multiple line items, and it produces no accountability. And I have made a commitment to my constituents that if it is an omnibus motion, it is highly likely and highly probable that I will vote no unless I can be accountable for my votes on the record. And so I do have suggested amendments to these. I may put those forward, I may not, but if I cannot vote on them one at a time, I cannot in good conscience vote in the affirmative. And I understand that this board disagrees with that stance on more than one occasion. I understand what efficiency looks like. I get it. But I think that accountability is important, and I think that this board owes our constituents accountability for our votes. So that is my thought, and I'll leave it to the body. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That motion is in order. It's appropriate. It's been seconded. It's before the body. Any discussion to the motion to separate? Member Hymas.
Yeah, I just want to respond quickly. I am going to speak against this motion. I'm not on the Standards and Assessment Committee, but I watched the videos. I'm aware of what's going on. So the reason I say this is I don't want the public to think that the board just makes these, oh, they're here in front of us, let's just vote on them, right? The work has been done, just not in this hour, right? It's been done previous. So just to speak clearly for those that I represent, you are represented.
Thank you. Vice Chair Earl, did you have a comment?
yeah, and I would speak against this motion too. If there's certain classes, people can pull those off and we can vote those separate if you're not wanting to vote for those, so to speak, and you're not, there's others that are fine. But I'm just going to articulate what Board Member Hymas said, that these have been vetted. They've been out for a while, so everybody could read those. A yes vote does not mean I didn't take any time, right? A yes vote means that these items are able to be moved forward. So if there's some that you don't want to don't want to, you want to vote no on, let's substitute those out. I don't mind, let's break those out, but let's not, I just think it's not necessary to do every single one, so.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing no lights? The motion is to divide each of the 61 items out of standards and assessment for separate consideration. I get that right, Member Bogus? Okay, I don't think it's up there, but that's it. Motion to divide 1 to 61. With that, members, please vote. See, are we missing one? Did I? I'm on there. That's that, everybody? 11 to 2. Oh, we're missing you. There you go.
Oh, hers isn't pulling
It's not lighting up.
I'm a no.
Maybe.
Are you able to record it now? It's not lighting up for. You break it, you got it. New tech budget.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Okay, we recorded, Member Earl was a, Vice Chair Earl was a no. So that fails 11 to 2. No. 12 to 2. That fails 12 to 2. The yes votes being members Bogus and Green. Okay, so back to the underlying motion, which was from Member Wood, was to divide a number of listed topics. Sure.
Order are we treating this, it seems as if we're treating this similar to a consent agenda where we're pulling items. So are we offering other board members the option to pull items, or do we amend this motion? I guess maybe I was misunderstood where we were at with this, because I'm talking too much. It seems as if you're going to vote on this motion before other board members are allowed to pull. And I want to have clarity on what's happening.
So I guess similar to consent in the sense that people can pull for separate consideration, but it doesn't require a motion to pull. So what we have brought up before us was 61 items. Member Wood has moved to separate a number of those. If that passes, those will be considered separately. That would not preclude another motion to separate additional items out of whatever's left, the 56 or so. Right? Am I getting that right? Yeah, I don't think that would preclude another motion to separate. It just means that those items that Member Wood identified would be broken out first. So, yeah, gotcha. Okay. So the motion to amend that the board will motion to divide out the following courses for separate consideration: commercial photography 1, economics, teaching as a profession 1, fire science introduction, and fire science safety and survival. Any further discussion to that motion? If not, please vote. Uh-oh.
Oh.
So we need to still, okay. She was working? Still not working?
It is now.
Oh, there we go. All right, we got a couple more. There we go. 14 in favor. That passes unanimously. So those have been separated from the other remaining items, 56 or whatever. So the floor is open for action on the items that have not been separated or those that have been separated. Member Wood? Oops. All right.
This is a motion for commercial photography 1. I just have one motion here. For Strand 6 portfolio, I move to adopt the languages submitted by the writing committee. Yes, I do.
That's been seconded, but yeah, let's maybe just get a point of order because we're going to have a number of these. What's the best way for us to understand what is the original writing committee? In this case, it's a reversion, correct, to,
It's on the very left column.
okay. Yes,
We could receive this document, we could look at it on our own devices so that they don't have to do that all the time.
is this?
Is it not in backup?
Not in
It
backup?
was sent out at noon yesterday. Okay. So the change is to simply strike and curate their own work using and keep through the compositional elements. If that's seconded, can I give my rationale?
Yes.
Okay.
Back to you, Member Wood.
So as changed, it appears that there are two separate requirements to this initial standard with the and inside. So you have a digital portfolio required and that students will curate their own work. And the original intent was that it's a single portfolio provided by the students. It also separates the aesthetic literacy as one element, using compositional elements as a second element, and you actually show that development of aesthetic literacy through compositional elements.
I'm sorry, Chair, you got a mouthful. I'm trying to understand this. We have writing committee standards and assessment, and then motion, and then final language. And the final language, is that not what we're,
That's my motion.
that's your motion?
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So standards, I'm trying to understand the columns here. Standard assessment is what the committee is proposing. And then final language is the, because we got some emails saying, hey, if you have any changes, submit them now. That's what we're looking at in the final language column. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, this is how I think. It may not be clear how other people think, so.
That's why I want to make sure that I'm reading all this right. Because if the final language, I wasn't sure if it was the final language that came out of committee.
No,
Okay.
that's the second one. Yeah, yep.
All right. Further discussion, question, Member Vargas?
Yes, sir. I am wondering if someone can define for me aesthetic literacy, because literacy is typically meant to articulate the acquisition of a skill set that is measurable. Literacy is measurable, and art is subjective. So I'm very confused as to how one can be aesthetically literate when art itself is subjective in terms of its beauty and purpose.
So does that go to the reversion to the original, or is that a separate element? Are those words at issue, the aesthetic literacy?
For me, they are. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
it might be a separate, you're not bringing a separate motion, though.
Well, I'm asking for a definition because
Okay,
when the efficacy of art or the beauty of art is subjective, I'm wondering how we can be literate in something that is inherently subjective.
is that a question for, I'm not sure it goes to Member Wood's language, so probably not a question for her. Is that a question you'd like us to put to staff? Anybody want to take a crack at aesthetic literacy. I don't think it's necessarily related to Member Wood's motion, so if we don't have anybody on hand, we can leave it floating there. Talia, would you like to? Are you willing? I guess that's the question. Thank you.
Did I do it right? There we go. Talia Longhurst, State Director of Career and Technical Education. I must confess, this is not my area of expertise, and our specialist who oversees this program is out on maternity leave. Those who are subbing in, trying to cover her courses, photography is not any of our area of expertise. However, are we on photography? We are. What we understand aesthetic literacy to be is combining arts within reading and writing literacy kinds of topics. That is what we believe aesthetic literacy means.
Thank you. Does that answer the question, Member Bogus?
To me, it does not answer the question, because aesthetic is how it looks, how it feels, it's beauty. And then to say someone is literate in beauty does not seem to match the definition given to me. And so I may have a motion. I guess that's all I have to say, sir.
Okay, we'll reserve. Thank you, Talia. Thank you very much for joining us. And we recognize for all our staff, we got 61 subjects here, so we're not going to have somebody to go in depth on every one of these. We appreciate any willingness to clarify, but we may just have to take what we can get and move along. We got a whole lot of stuff here, so thank you for helping to enlighten us, and we'll continue the discussion. Any other lights? Sorry, yeah, your light's up. I didn't see it. Member Norton.
Yes, I would like to ask Assistant Superintendent Nielsen to come up to answer a question that I have about teaching one in regards to assessment.
Is this to, let's see. I don't think that's to this current motion, though.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So we'll hold on that. So what we've got
Get
is
the seat warm.
we've got Member Wood's motion to strike the words "and curate their own using." Correct? That's what's before us. So that would strike those words from the Standards and Assessment Committee recommendation and revert back to the Writing Committee's language, which is on the far left. Any further discussion of that motion? If not, let us vote. Can we tee that one up? Is that everybody that we've got? We got 13. Okay, that motion passes. Unless Vice Chair Hart would like to vote. Your opinions on aesthetic literacy. Okay. She is a yes. No, I'm sorry. I should stop being. I'm not hired for jokes. I should stop it and stick to. All right. Did we get that right? Did we record her vote? She was a yes, I believe. Is that 9 then? Okay. So that passes 9-5. The noes being members Hymas, Bogus, Moss, Green, and Klein. Okay. Back to Member Wood, unless others had a different motion. We can alternate. Okay. Go for it. So we have a number that were divided.
So in Strand 6, I would move to strike the words aesthetic literacy, and it would read, students will construct a digital portfolio to demonstrate their development in compositional efficacy, and leave the rest the same. No.
Okay. So the motion having passed, the language is what was stated on the left, on the far left, and then we would have an amendment to that language.
Yeah, I would like to strike the words aesthetic literacy, and then the strand would read, students will construct a digital portfolio to demonstrate their development through compositional efficacy. And the rest would remain the same. And with a second, I would speak to the motion.
Is there a second? Do we have it framed up correctly first? Okay. Is that right, Member Bogus? Do we get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second? Member Green? Okay. To you, Member Bogus, you'd like to speak to the motion?
So I think about all these beautiful young people that I work with all the time. And I think about their families and what they come with and what they share. And to teach that we can be literate in the judgment of beauty, I kind of take offense to, because some of what we view in America as beautiful, some of our immigrant families don't think is beautiful, and vice versa. And there are things in composition in art, the rule of thirds, the way you frame your subject matter, all of those things are things that we consider through the compositional lens. But to be literate in beauty, to me, seems to be an element of coerced speech or coerced thought. And I would love to see this board embrace diversity of thought and diversity of beauty and diversity of opinion in that realm. And so I would move the motion on that base. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Member Bogus. I just want to I know Member Tricer Hart's in line.
Yeah.
Are you next? Or
So, the problem is I don't go and it doesn't put my name.
Go for it.
I'm just going to offer up a definition of aesthetics that comes from, in education. It says aesthetics is the inclusion of references to artistic elements or expressions within a work. It's the act of transforming space into learning space. So it's not aesthetics. It's like an alternate. It's a different definition of aesthetics. It's a mix of perception, intellect, and emotion, and understanding that, and this is very beautiful language, and understanding that all environments are pregnant with the possibility of learning if we adjust ourselves to receiving it. Just to offer the actual definition of aesthetic literacy.
Okay. Who else do we have? Lights. Member Norton? Oh, were you? I thought you'd already gotten you. Member Wood. Okay. Back to Member Wood.
If no one else does.
Member Wood's on, but we'll come back.
Oh,
So just speaking to aesthetics when referring to photography, there's an actual techniques, and you mentioned some of them: following the rule of thirds, adding symmetry, creating depth, frame within a frame. Those are actually aesthetic techniques of photography. The reason I brought forward this is my son took the photography class in 9th grade. He's turned it into a business. He now works for the Grizzlies. I ran these things through him, and this was one of the things that he was concerned about, and so I brought it forward. For one of my constituents. So aesthetic. So I would speak against this motion because it's actually a word referring to photography and how pictures are taken.
Okay, thank you. Back to Member Bogus.
so I would respectfully disagree with Member Wood, because everything she just described is a compositional element. And if we're not going to put the definition of aesthetics in the standards themselves, then I would argue that this needs to go, because when we're literate in the assumption of beauty, which is what most people believe that aesthetics are, then we're in a place where we're teaching what is and what is not, and we're not valuing diversity. We're actually quashing it. And I agree with Member Wood that those things need to be considered, but they're not aesthetic literacy. They're compositional elements.
Okay. I wish I could channel my mom, who taught aesthetics at BYU Art Ed for years, but I can't. So I have nothing to say. I recall in the 80s when they did discipline-based art education, it was aesthetics, history, production, and pedagogy, I think, and that's the entire extent of my knowledge. So any further comments? Member Norton. Okay. All right. So the motion is then to strike the words aesthetic literacy. And there we go on the side to see the effect of that. Member Klein.
Would need to strike through also in order for it to read correctly. So it would be development in compositional elements.
Is that right, Member Bogus?
Sure. Yes.
So, okay, so it would strike the words aesthetic literacy through. Is that right? Okay. Okay, with that framed up correctly, Member Lear?
Chatting for a minute, so I hope you didn't say this. But I can't see why you'd strike it there and not everywhere else in that, across the strands. It just. Okay, I'm just curious. Would seem to be inconsistent if you just struck it one place.
Are there other, just to keep this moving, are there other specific parts of this strand or I can't remember what each little subunit's called that you want to include then? Or should we take what we've got and take a vote?
That was just a question, so I don't have an opinion on that. I just wondered.
Then I would amend the motion to take it out everywhere and the semantics to be like.
Do we know what everywhere means?
Yes, throughout
Is this,
this set.
do we need a bit of a zoom out to just see what the effect would be? Is the same language repeated?
You can trust me, but I know that.
All right, do we need to see other language? Do we know exactly what the effect?
It's probably in commercial photography 2 and 3, which are not listed here, so I can scan those, but I'd have to go back to the document.
I just want to make sure I know what we're voting on. So, yeah, so a term of art perhaps that's used elsewhere. Do we know how many times that's referenced or in what context? Do we need any more review of this, or do we feel like we're able to vote? Any members have questions or concerns making a so the macro would be within the commercial photography strand, correct? All 3 commercial photography strands? Okay. All right, so the motion is that within all 3 commercial photography strands, where the term aesthetic literacy is used, it would delete the words aesthetic literacy through. Correct? That's the... Okay. All right, I think we've got it. So any final discussion to that motion? If not...
One more time about this, but little unknown fact, I have international awards in photography. International. I have never once been to a training for photography or any art class in any place where they talked about aesthetic literacy. We talked about composition. We talked about moving the eye through the frame. We talked about all of those things. Never once did they talk about being literate in the subjective. They always talked about embracing the subjective and being skillful in compositional elements. And to me, that turns it on its head, where we refute and rebut diversity of the view of beauty as opposed to embracing the differences across the globe. Thank you.
Okay. Any further final comments? If not, let's vote. I think we still have one more, right? We're at 14. There we go. Okay. That motion fails 10-4. The yes votes being members Klein, Green, Bogus, and Carey. Okay. Floor is open to additional motions on. We had a motion to separate that was passed. Back to Member Wood. So I don't think we have a pending motion. We got the separation that was done and any motions. Yeah, okay, you're on, Member Wood.
I move to adopt the standards for commercial photography 1.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion of that motion? Member Norton, your light's on. Was that for this? Okay. Okay, if not, let's vote. Motion is to adopt the standards for commercial photography 1. Now, is that as amended? That's what we just amended, correct? As amended. That motion passes 13-1, the no vote being Member Bogus. Okay, floor is open. Member Wood.
Okay, I move to amend Stand 3, Standard 1 in economics. And I move to adopt the graphic as designed by the writing committee. Is there a second? If there's a second, I can speak to that while it's being brought up.
All right, it's been seconded.
Okay, I did not hear. I'm sorry.
Back to you.
Mhm. Okay. Mhm.
So I don't actually know what she's changing it back to.
I'll see if I can find it real quick.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have the page number, sorry.
I'm not trying to be.
What class is this again?
Economics. Is it page 95? So in the graphic, if you notice in the original one that came out, there are 2 arrows running from households to government.
Do
And
we
there
know
are-
what page on this? Sorry, just a quick.
I'm trying to get.
I think
Well, Kelsey just said it.
If you're logged into 365, Office 365 on your school system, you'll be able to see it.
If you click on the little missing icon next to the,
It's right here. It's on page 105 in draft. Full CTE standard.
Okay, so this is what came out of the writing committee. You'll notice that there are 2 arrows underneath from households to government, taxes and labor and other resources. The Standards and Assessment Committee voted to remove labor and other resources. I bring this motion in behalf of my dad, who's a constituent of Board Member Green's. He was an economics professor for 40 years, and he happened to be staying with me while the Standards and Assessment Committee was going on. As he was listening to the debate, he said, labor is absolutely runs from households to government. We wouldn't have a government function without labor. And he said, and you can tell them I said that. But he didn't say it in such nice words. So the other section was government goods and services between government and business, is that government goods was removed. It says government services. Now in the committee discussion, Member Rill brought this out very clearly, and I think the discussion just kind of got muddled, is that in the terms they use, it's public goods. And so removing the goods does not prepare our students adequately for the language that's used when studying economics. So I would move to put labor and other resources back and to put goods back into the graphic.
Okay. I think that's been seconded, right? We got it.
This one was removed, and this one, goods, was taken out. So this is what she's recommending would stay.
Okay.
And if you look on page 105 in your, there you go. That's what the motion was made under committee. You can see the 2 differences.
Do we know what the vote was on that to remove those two items in committee?
3-2.
3-2? Okay. So the vote was 3-2 in favor of removing those two. Discussion of that, member Straight, I think. Do we have, am I doing it right?
I have a question. I'm not sure who to ask this to. Maybe it goes back to Member Wood. But what is the source of the original graph or chart?
You could ask, who is it?
They said in committee that it was a compilation of multiple sources.
Probably need to get on the. Click your.
So, member Reel?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Member, let's see, we got member Klein and member Hymas? Klein and Hymas?
Okay, so speaking about households, between the lower arrow that was removed from households to government, said labor and resources. Nothing in our nothing in that chart. If the rationale that was given was implemented on this chart, you'd have an arrow going from household to every other part of this chart as well when it comes to labor and resources, because everybody comes from a house. But households don't provide labor and service to the government. We don't. There may be individuals that work for the government, but households themselves don't provide labor to the government. Households themselves don't provide services to the government. Businesses provide services and sometimes labor for government, but otherwise we would have to have an arrow from household to markets, household to business. I mean, and we do have it from households to market and household to resources, but everything is made up of individuals running the system. So to be accurate, it's just not accurate to say households provide labor and services to the government. Individuals do, but not households. And then the goods, government doesn't create things; they provide services. But the government, at least, it hasn't. The only thing government creates is what they partner with businesses and markets to create. They of themselves don't create anything.
Okay. Member Hymas?
Thank you. I'm quite frankly conflicted on this one. Logically, it makes sense, but for me, economics has never been logical. So I don't know who's on the writing committee. I mean, I hear the experience of Leanne's father, and I wish we could just call him and get him on here, and right? Because I've had similar experiences where I'm watching a meeting and my business administrator comes in and is like, "What are they discussing?" And I say, "Well, you just step out for a second. Let me finish up here." And so, I understand that this has been brought forth by the writing committee. I understand that as Member Klein has put forth the amendment in standards and assessment, and that the discussion happened, and 3 of the 2 said, "Yeah, we agree with this," or 3 of the 5, I'm sorry, said, "Yeah, we agree with this." What are the economists saying? What are the professionals saying in this area? I guess that's my question, and I don't know if that goes to another board member or if that goes to staff. It looks like Member Klein has a response. I'm just curious what we're seeing.
I did run my amendments past our state treasurer, and he agreed that my amendments made it stronger. So, if that helps.
He's an accountant.
Member Reel?
Oh, I was going to mention that part of what I learned through this process, which, you know, I typically end up defaulting to those that are teaching the course, but that it's called the circular flow model in economics. That's where this chart comes from. You can find a lot of different circular flow models in economics based on the content of what they're talking about, but that's where the core of this graphic comes from, and it includes the majority of pieces in there. It just looks, I mean, it's the same pieces in all of the model that you can find, but this was just made to be more applicable to the standards that they're teaching and for the age group. Right, and they do include labor, and I think I mentioned this during our standards and assessment meeting, but 50% of my family works for the state of Utah, and we are labor for the government. Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if not, the motion is, let's see, to adopt the graphic as designed by the writing committee, meaning that those two items that have been discussed. I don't think so. Was there? Did I lose track? Okay, that's the motion. Let's vote.
Am I the only one?
We got one
Oh my heck. Should have went in earlier. Actually, no, I'm serious on that one.
Okay, that motion passes 7-6. I'm sorry, we need 8. I apologize. Fails 7-6 with one abstention. The no votes are Klein, Bogus, Green, Carey, Moss, and Hymus, with member Earl abstaining. Okay. The floor is again open. Member Straight?
I'd like to make a motion to remove the graphics completely from the standards.
From
The particular ones we're
Economics?
discussing, yes.
So we're on economic, what is this called? Economics 1, just economics? So member Straight, before we ask for a second, let me just make sure I understand the scope of the motion. We're on strand 3 of economics. Are you referencing strand 3 or the entire economics unit?
Just the one we're discussing.
Strand 3, standard 1. Okay. All right. Okay. So it's just limited to the graphic we were just looking at on page 105 of our material. Okay, is there a second? Okay, back to you, member Straight.
So the reason I say this is if this is in support of the standards as they are, does the removal of the items from the graph now affect the standard? And if that's the case, then this graph will stand on its own. It doesn't have to be in there. I'm sure it could be in a textbook. I taught economics. These types of things were often in the materials we use to present to students. And so I want to make certain that whatever we have is in support of the standards as passed. And without looking at all the other items, if we take this particular graph out, then that doesn't necessarily, we're not supporting a particular view. The standards will stand on their own.
Hey, member
Can I-
Bogus and then Vice Chair Earl.
Has member Straight's motion been seconded? Yeah, then I would support the motion. Can I speak to that?
Yes.
my research indicates that there's not a circular flow model that looks anything like that in any of my research. And I would just argue that maybe that's the better way to go.
Okay, Vice Chair Earl.
Thank you. I actually speak in favor of this too, just because different classes use different textbooks, use different things. And the reason why I abstained, even in committee, was I just don't know that that was for sure the model that was going to be articulate. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though we've got the model there, I know that they worked hard to kind of combine together and say, oh, this is the model we want to use. They tried to combine a number of them, from what I understand, to make one cohesive model. But it's still, to me, it still didn't feel quite settled there. So I think this is a better way to go and let, and it's going to be different depending on what they use. So I'm speaking in favor of this.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is that this graphic be stricken from economics unit, help me again, units and strands and standards. Strand 3, standard 1, correct? Okay. Okay, voting is open. And I think that's, let's see, are we at 13 or 14?
We are at 14.
Oh, there we go. We have one no. Member Rio voting no. That passes 13-1. Okay. Floor is again open. Back to Member Wood. I think. Yes. Okay.
I move to adopt the standards for economics
As amended, correct?
as amended.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, just making sure. It's been seconded. Any additional discussion? Okay. Member Klein.
Okay, so this is, I just wanted to look at page 110. We need to unstrike a 2 that was stricken just for, it's just an editorial fix. Yeah, so if they can just take note on page 110. Yeah, and that's all.
We don't need a motion for that then, correct? Okay. Okay. Floor is still open? No, we've got a motion pending. Sorry. That was the motion before that. Okay, so the motion is to adopt the economics strand. Am I saying the right?
As amended.
Economic course as amended. Voting is open. No?
Oh,
All right, now it's really open. Okay, we're missing one. Oh, okay. That passes 13-1, the no vote being Member Bogus. So those are adopted, the economics course. Back to Member Wood.
Okay, moving to teaching as a profession 1. I move that all instances of the following language be changed in teaching as a profession 1, strand 2, standards 2 through 6, to strike the first and apply to student learning outcomes, and strike some in education believe they relate, and insert they apply or it applies as syntax requires.
Could we see that? If we zoom out of it, will we see where
Yeah, so
that-
there's 6 different motions if it needed to be divided, but they all end up doing the same thing.
Okay, was that seconded? Seconded. Back to you, Member Wood.
So all of these look at, it says students will evaluate the theories. In theory is an inherent that someone believes it. It's not a fact, it's not, it's a belief. And so it's duplicative language. And also the student outcomes language was in each of these twice. I think it started and then language was added to it in the Standards and Assessment Committee. So I'm just trying to remove duplicative language.
Okay, could we just, oh, well, can we pan out just a little bit again to see what that looks like with the Gardner and Piaget, et cetera? Okay. There we go. Okay, further discussion to that motion. Member Bogus?
So with, should this language pass, it assumes theory is fact, the way it's written. So is that the intent? I guess the question is to the maker of the motion, is that the intent?
Inherent in the definition of theory is that it is not fact. So
Well,
if
and-
you're already using the word theory, you don't have to say some people believe this.
And while I understand that, the way it's articulated, the assignment has to be completed, assuming the theory is fact.
Yeah.
Moderate traffic here, but go ahead. Would you like to respond? You don't have to. I do have to turn on my, there we go. Excuse me. Okay.
So then
Further discussion, Member Bogus?
I would just
Follow up?
move, well, I guess I need to see the original motion or I need to divide one or the other. Please.
That's the original motion. That's what came out of committee. It's just not. So it's adding on a section here. Some in education believe. And I mean, there's more components to that, but.
There was a redlining. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
That
Yeah, it's
helps.
like, where did they go?
So the motion would restore the stricken language in column 2 and strike the red language that was added in committee. Is that correct? Okay. Reverting it back to what's in column 1. Okay, any further discussion of that motion? If not, let's vote. That's true. That motion passes 10-4, the no votes being members Bogus, Klein, Hymas, and Green. Okay,
I have a motion.
floor is open. Vice Chair Earl. Oh, Member Norton,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
you're
Oh,
on
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Sorry.
I lost you down there.
So patiently.
Oh, I'm sorry, I lost you down there.
I have a question first for Assistant Superintendent Nielsen, and then, depending on his answer, a potential motion for teaching Standard 3. Okay, as I listened to the hours of entertaining information that I was listening to with this standards and assessment, there was something that was mentioned that did not coincide with the education that I had received. And so that's why I'm asking you, because you are our resident expert in assessment. And that was the terminology surrounding the word summative assessment. And I'm just wondering if you would give us your expert opinion on how would you define summative assessment?
Respond. Darren Nielsen, Assistant Superintendent of Student Learning for the Utah State Board of Education. I can say that in Standard 2 and Standard 3 of Teaching as a Profession, where there's a definition of formative assessments and summative assessments, those two definitions are consistent with the professional learning we provide to paid educators, and the same definitions. It's consistent with the definitions they would receive in their education preparation programs. So the definition of summative assessment here is a measurement of student learning at the conclusion of a defined instructional period. So that could be a period of a week, 6 weeks, a term. It could be what the State Board of Education authorizes, and that is the end of course or end of grade summative assessments. The purpose of those assessments typically is to examine a student's progress compared to an established standard, just like the standards that you're debating and approving through this process, whereas formative assessment is designed to provide more timely and actionable information to both the learner and the teacher to make timely decisions on a day-to-day or moment-by-moment process through the learning process.
Great, thank you. So I'd like, Chair, to make a motion in Teaching 1, Standard 3. Oh, come on, computer. I'm noticing in several places that the language was amended to read. It took out the original language that says summative assessment is a measurement of student learning at a conclusion of a defined instructional period. And instead, the language was substituted to say summative assessment informs educator instruction. And it also, it says that a couple of places. And so I would like to remove and send this back to the original language of the writing committee, which identifies summative as that at the conclusion of a defined instructional period.
Second.
Back to you, Chair Norton. Anything further in support of the motion?
No, that's.
Any other comment, discussion about?
Actually, I just wanted to say, I think coming from State Board of Education, we ought to keep with the traditional or the definitions that are used in the education profession.
Do we have one that shows what that would look like and where it's been changed and how it would revert?
Well, I'm looking on my screen,
Tough.
and it's
Page 218, if you're following in your
218.
amended
Okay.
document.
I'm just saying amend
Or
teaching as
239.
profession 1, progress, and then standard 3.
It's 218, not at the bottom of the page, but up at the top, like if you're scanning. Does that make sense? Because it says 239 on here, but that's because it's out of order with the rest of the documents. But page 218.
So do we have 218? Our
On the draft using today, I have 218. On the full draft, I don't know where it's at.
So as revised, it says, identify summative assessment, how it evaluates student learning and informs educator instruction. Well, I just have a question. I mean, summative does come at the end of a defined period. I mean, is the argument here that teachers still use that summative assessment when they start the next defined period, and therefore they derive some formative value out of a summative? Right. I'm just curious the thought process that went into the amendment. I could see, I'm out of my depth here, but I could see the argument that teachers use that summative assessment as they prepare for the next period, right? And so make a formative use out of the summative assessment. Is that the purpose of all this? I'm just trying to get to what was the intent of the committee. I don't know if somebody wants to. Okay, well,
I can speak to it just a little bit. That the intent is that end of year assessment should help inform the next year where students are. But as you're moving into that, but you do get that late though, right? So that's the other. Yeah, but they would still use that as an information piece, right? So yeah.
Got it.
I'm just sharing you our thought process, so we can go a different direction with more information.
Okay. That helps. Okay, so the motion is then from Member Norton, in teaching 1, strand 4, standard 3, to amend the standard to the writing committee draft, to revert to the writing committee draft regarding the definition of summative assessment, which is, as stated on 239, summative assessment is a measurement of student learning at the conclusion of a defined instructional period. Correct? Am I framing that correctly? Okay, so voting is open. All right, that passes 8-6. The no votes being members Klein, Straight, Carey, Hymus, Green, and Bogus. Okay, floor is open. Member Wood, or Member Vice Chair Hart.
I do
or
have I have
Earl.
a motion. At the end of, now I've moved my document here. Sorry, just a second. On page, this has to do with Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. I want to add a point on there. It is, that's why. Do you want to make a comment on that? Yeah, so that, oh. So this is the motion, if we're going to keep this in here with Gardner specifically, to add let me tell you where I'm adding it. My apologies. It's under standard 2. Okay, strand 2, standard 2 in this section of education. And I appreciate Board Member Klein's addition of investigate instructional methods that have proven successful over time and are backed by empirical evidence and sound research because, let me give my amendment. And then I'll explain it. So it would be adding, understand the difference between learning styles, and multiple intelligences and how presenting information in different ways can help students retain information. And if I get a second, I'll speak to that.
Second.
Okay, Gardner is maybe a little outdated here. And when I've done a little research on this because just with the learning styles okay, let's see if I can articulate this. So when he put his theory out or his hypothesis or whatever you want to call it, he was suggesting that you went in many different directions. That learning was just not, we kind of had two-dimensional back in the 80s. It was like this or this type of a style. And he broadened that out. So he created a greater thought process that it could be much more than that, adding the arts in and other things. But often it's misused in education, and there's quite a bit of research behind it that there can be a misapplication of it to be narrowing and saying kids only learn in certain styles instead of realizing that kids learn in many different styles, even if they have one that they maybe lean towards or whatever, the best way of learning is when you apply it to many different methods. So, and like I said, there's quite a bit of research around that. So anyway, what I'm saying is that we need to look at, I appreciate Board Member Klein's addition here because it says go back to the evidence, is it proved effective, and then adding this in to make sure we're drawing attention to some of the complications with this particular theory. That's a long explanation.
Okay, I think that was seconded, right?
Yeah.
Comment? Member Bogus, question?
Can I see the thing again? I'm so sorry. Her motion. I'm wondering if it would make more sense. For me, it would make more sense if it said, understand the difference between learning style and intelligence. And maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Oh, sorry.
No, maybe I'm misunderstanding your intent.
Well, multiple intelligence is his theory. That's why I included that, so that we could understand it's articulating those two.
Should that be capitalized? And I'm not trying to be semantic, but to me, that wasn't clear.
Because we talked about the theory, it was a specific theory, but yeah, and I don't know, it could be.
Superintendent Dixon, did
Yes,
you
are
want
you
to?
ready? Oh, and I was
Yeah,
probably
you betcha.
whispering into
Sorry.
a mic. I apologize. Thank you, Chair Moss. So just in checking with staff, no, I just didn't want to, interrupt any fierce discussion. Going back to two things. One, the intended audience. So we're talking about high school kiddos, basically. So we have to remember that. And then two, what is the overarching concept you're trying to teach? And that is that not everybody learns in the same way. So I think when you get to, again, age level, what's age appropriate, and what's the overarching concept, it's just there are different learning styles that appeal to different kiddos. So teaching just in one way is not really effective teaching and not conducive to learning. So I think that, again, inserting my opinion here, I think the more general you can leave it around that concept of just helping high school students engaged in these courses understand that kids learn in different ways and keep it very simplistic and away from a theorist or a particular model, the better off you are. And I guess I know that leaves room for interpretation, but going back to, that's really what they're trying to get at, is just helping our high school students learn that teachers need to teach in a variety of ways because students learn in a variety of ways. So whatever captures that.
Chair. I'm in
Who's
the-
on?
I
Member
am.
Wood? No, you are. Excuse me.
And I think that's why I like how presenting information in different ways can help students retain information. It's a nod to universal design for learning. It's a nod to teachers not standing and lecturing. It's a nod to not just paper and pencil. So I think that they should be not capitalized so that it stays broad. And I think that we should definitely include the second piece. The problem I have is if a teacher starts going down the learning styles road and the multiple intelligences road, it's very easy to turn into time wasters, such as what is your preferred style of learning and what is your and take this test, and now we know, and then students take and do that to their students, and it's so pointless. So the whole point is that when a teacher is designing student experiences for the classroom, there needs to be multiple ways to engage in the material, period. So what I'm thinking aloud is, do we need to even mention the first part for the latter part?
I see what you're saying.
I just don't know the context. Students learn in different ways. Multiple modes of learning is one of the primary concerns when creating lessons. I don't even want to go down that road, because a teacher Googles something, remembers something from their own experiences, and the next thing we know, yeah. So I am not quick enough on my feet to
offer something, but I am concerned.
So understand how different oh, yeah.
One reason I am very reticent to mess with standards is because a group of people designed an entire meal, an entire menu. And when you change one, you may screw up the others. What I'm asking is if somebody, either from the writing committee or somebody, give me an opinion on whether or not, if we did that to this standard, does it mess up the domino chain? No? Thank you. Thanks, Talia. Okay, then, yeah. What is
It's been
it?
seconded.
I don't, okay, there you go. Good. Thanks.
Okay, that's the motion. It's been seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no lights, let's vote. The motion is to amend Strand 2, Standard 2 to add understand. It's to strike, sorry, within the motion from Member Earl, it would strike the words the difference between learning styles and multiple intelligence and, so that the underlying
Chair
amendment
Moss.
would say understand how presenting information in different ways can help students retain information.
Chair Moss, can I ask
Yes.
a point of
And
order,
also
I guess?
Deputy Norman after you, yeah. Either way.
Okay, I just want to understand if we are treating this one as member or Vice Chair Hart's amendment to Vice
Yes.
Chair Earl's amendment, or if we adopted that into Vice Chair Earl's amendment without objection, and are we?
Well, I guess we can do it as a proposed friendly. It's been accepted by the maker. Is there any objection from the body? I just did.
Oh, sorry.
I heard no objection, therefore it's been accepted as a friendly. So the motion is, yes, Patty, sorry, Dr. Norman.
We're trying. So just to make sure that we have everything on there, it is only what's in column 3, that you're leaving column 1 as is. So standard 2 still starts with identify Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and then it goes down and has all of those bullet points. And then adding on to that would be understand how presenting information in different ways can help students retain information, correct? We keep it all?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so bringing it back, the motion from Vice Chair Earl with the friendly amendment is that after what's in the left column there in Strand 2, Standard 2, we would add understand how presenting information in different ways can help students retain information as a final bullet point. Voting is open. And let's see, we're missing 3.
No. Oh, Jen, can you vote?
Missing 1. Okay, that passes 13-0 with 1 abstention, abstention being Member Lear. All right, that passes. Let's see, that was freestanding. Touche. All right, floor's open. Member Wood.
I have one final motion for this. It's in Strand 4, Standard 2, and I move to strike towards achieving state standards and insert essential educational skills and knowledge. So this is the, oh, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. This is the definition of progress, and it was forward movement toward a learning intention, and then it was changed to forward movement towards achieving state standards. And I believe that progress in learning goes beyond achieving state standards. I know in my own district, we have the Davis Essential Skills and Knowledge, which go over and above our state standards. And so I move that we it read progress, forward movement toward essential educational skills and knowledge.
I'm going to ask a question. Can I,
Yes, Mr. Hart.
thank you. I'm wondering about, how do you define educational skills and knowledge? And you don't have to answer that if you're not. I just, in the reason I was okay with state standards is because the teacher of this class can find those. How do they find what essential education skills and knowledge are?
Well, in my mind, it was a basic definition of progress. I mean, where we're trying to teach teachers how to, what certain educational
Okay.
definitions mean. And I think progress goes beyond state standards. So
I gotcha. Thank you.
Further discussion? Not seeing any, so this would be standard 2, progress, forward movement, instead of toward achieving state standards. It wouldn't go back to so the writing committees was toward a learning intention, right? Standards assessment committee said it's toward achieving state standards. This would change to toward essential educational skills and knowledge. So this is on the middle of page 239 if anybody's trying to follow along. This is not the writing committee or the standards and assessment committee. Correct? Okay. Member Bogus?
Member Bogus is waiting for her.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. So I would speak against the motion just because, to me, a learning intention is defined. A state standard is defined. Who gets to define essential educational skills and knowledge? If it goes above and beyond, then it's ill-defined, and then I'm voting for something that's not defined, or it's defined by someone I've never met. And so I would argue that what came out of committee is more appropriate. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Member Carey?
Amended motion in order, Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to amend the motion. I understand what Board Member Wood, I believe, is seeking to achieve. So I would just like to add, after the word knowledge, that comply with applicable state standards.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been seconded. Would you like to speak to the motion, Member Carey?
He's going to speak to the
He's gonna, yeah. Feel free afterward, though. Let's bring it to you for a question.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah, the state standards aren't the end all in terms of all the information that's out there that's, you know, good and desirable. So I think that should be included to the extent that it produces a better student. But I also am concerned that does that just open the floodgates to anything and everything in terms of it being, well, it's essential educational skills. And as Board Member Bogus said, who defines that? But by adding the requirement that this additional, these educational skills and knowledge comply, I do think that puts a more direction on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Reel and then Bogus?
Yeah, I thank you, Chair. I have a question that possibly, I believe it's Ashley Higgs is over this area, just about the definition of learning intention, if she could provide that. Because it's my understanding that the learning intention is based on state standards. Is Ashley here? I'm not sure. Talia?
Ashley, do we have,
Okay.
I mean, that's learning intention.
thank you, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley Higgs, CTE Education Specialist. If you go up into Standard 1 of Strand 3, we defined learning intention as statements written by educators that define the day-to-day learning goals aligned to state standards. So when the committee went to write the definition for progress, that's why we aligned it to learning intentions, because it is defined as what the day-to-day is based off of state standards.
So, well,
Oh, sorry, Member Bogus. It's her.
thank you, Chair. So I have a couple thoughts, and I'm genuinely not trying to be facetious, Member Carey, but I'm wondering how you comply with state standards, because that to me is a regulation word, and so my brain is not reconciling that word with standards. And then my other question would be, in the context of Standard 2, as I'm reading this, at the top of Standard 2, it says, identify formative assessment and how it evaluates student learning and informs educator instruction. And to me, this amendment doesn't reconcile with the context in which Standard 2 is written. And I guess I would just leave it at that. I would tend to go back to my original statement that toward achieving state standards as out of committee would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bogus. Are you seeking a response from anybody on those, or back to Member Reel?
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to make a substitute amendment if that's applicable in this moment.
There's 2 on.
There is 2 on?
Are we?
No.
Yeah, because.
Oh, because the original. All right.
Vote on this
Well-
one, and then you can make a sub. Yeah, because this is amended. and
Okay.
then this is amended.
Yeah, you're right. Let's
All
start
right.
off with amendment. Okay. So discussion to the pending motion then, as amended. Seeing no, unless Member Wood, are you holding?
Oh, I'll wait.
Okay. Okay, it's teed up for a vote then. The motion is, let's see, the amendment to the amendment is the underlined language, correct?
No,
No?
we've already got. Yeah. she was
Right.
asking
We
about-
have an amendment
oh,
to an amendment. I just want to make sure I've got,
I see what you're saying.
the pending motion is to add the underlined language. I forgot whose motion that was.
Carrie.
That's Member Carey. So
Good.
pending motion is to add to Member Wood's underlying motion the language that is underlined. So it would add to the pending motion from Member Wood of essential educational skills and knowledge, the underlying language that comply with applicable state standards. So seeing no further lights, we may have a Member Lear? Member Reel?
No.
I'm just waiting till after the vote.
Okay, Member Lear.
And I'm not opposed to that, adding that piece, but I'm still trying to, I was very persuaded by Leanne's point about LEA standards that go beyond applicable state standards. So, or essential education skills and knowledge. They take it beyond the state standards. So I'm feeling like this underlined language takes it backwards and doesn't allow for the Davis example. Would that be, does either Member Carey or Member Wood see it that way, or am I misunderstanding?
Any response? Okay, further,
Nobody has a response. Okay, that's all right. I'll just vote accordingly.
All right. Okay.
12-step
Anything
program, right?
further on this one, on member carries? Okay, if not, let's vote. Okay, that motion fails. Vote of 9-5 with the yes votes, in this case being Vice Chair Earl, Member Carey, Member Hymas, Member Bogus, and Vice Chair Hart. So we have then the underlying motion from Member Wood, which was to, let's see, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Sybil. For under the definition of progress in Strand 4, gosh, where did this go? I had it here. All right, in Strand 4, to insert the words essential. I just want to make sure I'm clear what we currently have. Column 2 describes what we currently have. Towards achieving state standards, right? So it would move to strike towards achieving state standards and insert essential educational skills and knowledge. Any further discussion of that motion? Member Reel, Member Earl, or no,
Yeah.
Lear?
Hers is just still on, I'm sure. I'd like to make a substitute amendment to Strand 4, Standard 2, to go back to what was originally presented from the writing committee, which is progress, forward movement towards a learning intention.
So that is the amendment to the underlying amendment.
And
we did get a second, right? Okay, back to you, Member Reel.
Yeah, just after learning more about the definition of learning intention, I think that when we pulled that in the in standards and what Member Wood was trying to get to, I think that it was just becoming overcomplicated, and it sounds like all of us are still focused on what was originally written, which now learning what learning intention is defined as. So I think the writing committee got it right on that.
Okay, other discussion to that? I'll just, my own thought here is that we're talking about Rick Dufour's critical questions in the definition of progress as an element of formative assessment. So I'm not sure that needs to be as specific as state standards, but I would certainly assume the application of any of these is to help learn state standards, but this seems to be more of a conceptual element than a specific reference to state standards. So I would support learning intention. Any other comments, thoughts? Okay, if not, we can vote. Motion is to revert to the writing committee language of toward a learning intention. Please vote. That passes 10-4, the no votes being members Bogus, Klein, Green, and Carey. Okay, let's see. That was a substitute, correct? So that takes care of that one. Floor is open. Sorry. And Member Wood.
I move to adopt the standards for teaching as a profession 1.
Discussion of the motion, Member Wood. Done? Okay. Any other discussion of that motion? So the motion then is to adopt the standards for teaching as a profession 1, correct? Course 1?
Yeah.
Am I describing it correctly for the... Okay. Seeing no lights, please vote. We're watching for one more, I believe. Okay, 11 to 4. That passes 11 to 4. The no votes being members Klein, Bogus. Oh, I'm sorry, 11 to 3. No votes being members Klein, Bogus, and Green. Okay, floor is open. Member Wood?
Okay, this is Fire Science Introduction, Strand 2, Standard 4. I move to substitute the following language. Discuss how firefighters hold a position of public trust.
Second.
Second.
Seconded to you to speak to the motion, Member Wood?
So the original language from the writing committee were public figures that came out of standards as civil servants, which civil servants have a myriad of definitions. But the intent of the standard was to talk about the position of trust where firefighters are allowed. They're one of the few that come into a home without a search warrant. They're there to save you. There's a position. There's a position of trust that comes with being a firefighter, and that's the climate that they want to talk about in this class is helping students acknowledge that position that they will hold if they go into this position.
Okay. Discussion of that motion. Seeing none. Oh, let's vote. That passes. Oh, wait, did I get that wrong? There we go. That passes by a vote of 10 to 4. The no votes being members Hymas, Klein, Bogus, and Green. Okay. Floor is open.
I move to adopt the standards for fire science introduction.
Member Klein? Well, hold on. We need to see if that has a second, and then we can speak to it. Seconded? Let's let Member Wood speak to it if you want to, or sum up. No? Okay, Member Klein.
Okay, it's page 273, I don't know, but I would move to strike National Fire Academy, as the lead up to that is it's required to be a federal agency, and the National Fire Academy is not a federal agency. It was added to FEMA and something else, I can't remember, that are federal agencies. And the description is for federal agencies. 273 on the full document. I don't know what on yours. Three. Has recognized the various federal agencies that support fire and emergency services in North America. So federal agencies. 272, it's at the,
272.
yeah, standard 3 starts on
There we go.
272 and
Okay,
leads on
goes
to
into
273.
Various federal agencies, National Fire Academy. Okay, so you're saying that the National Fire Academy is not in fact a
It's not a federal agency.
federal.
After she speaks to it.
Okay, did you have more on speaking for it, Member Vice Chair Earl?
Yeah, I had this added, and the Department of Homeland Security is your federal agency there. This is the National Fire Academy falls underneath there. So, it doesn't matter. If it goes, it's fine. Or if it stays, it's fine too.
All the others are federal agencies that lists Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Bureau of Land Management, Environmental Protection Association. So it just doesn't fit what is said in the standard. Recognize various federal agencies.
Okay, any further discussion
It's
of that
standard
motion?
3.
Strand 5, standard 3.
Yeah.
272
Strand 5,
in
standard
the
3.
printed full copy. Okay, anything further on that one? Seeing none, let's vote. Can we tee that one up for a vote? The motion is to strike National Fire Academy from Strand 3.
Maybe FEMA falls.
Do you want the standard and strand? 5, standard 3.
3. Okay. Oh, sorry. We'll wait for votes. Yeah, we are ready to roll.
It's
No worries.
security. It's associated with that. That's why I put it in there. But if it's not, it's still, they would still talk about it. So, yeah.
Right.
Natalie, who seconded it? I don't know.
Did anybody second this motion to strike National Fire Academy? Member Greenwell. Yeah, can't recall if we had a second, so thank you. Okay. We are confirmed and voting is open.
It just doesn't matter, but it just tells you where it falls.
And let's see, I think we're just missing Vice Chair Hart, yeah? Oh, all right. Just playing the odds, like Member Hymas. I was playing the odds. Okay.
The odds are wrong.
Compelling. All right. Let's see. We one more.
No, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay. All right. We just remember Carrie for a minute. Okay. 8-5. That passes. The noes being members Reel, Norton, Lear, Wood, and Straight. Okay. All right. Floor is open. We have a light from Member Klein.
Well, actually, we have a motion.
Oh, wait. Do we?
Yeah, she amended the motion.
Oh, correct. We had the motion to adopt.
Was it a substitute motion, or was it just amended?
Had you moved to adopt these underlying set course? What is that?
And she amended.
So she amended it. Okay. So what? I'm sorry. What course? I'm sorry. What's the general? Is it fire science introduction? Okay. So the motion was to adopt fire science introduction. It's been amended per Member Klein's motion. The floor is open on the underlying. If there's comment or argument discussion to the motion to adopt fire standards introduction. Member Klein.
I would like to amend the motion to strike the 4 bullet points under standard, I think standard 3. It was previously standard 4. It reads, examine some of the reasons people resist change to safety improvements in the fire service. And then the 4 bullet points are closed-mindedness, loss of control, change not needed, tradition, it's always been done this way. So I would just eliminate those, keep the standard, but eliminate the bullet points.
Page 280 for those following along. Okay, was there a second to that motion?
Is there a second?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Talia. Am I off?
That's the next one.
Oh, is that the next one?
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'll bring that next.
All right. So we're back on fire safety introduction. Right? What am I saying? Right? Okay. So the motion is to adopt fire safety introduction as amended. Further discussion to that motion. Member Klein, was that no? Okay. Seeing none, we can vote on adopting then fire safety introduction as amended. Thank you. Fire science. What is it?
Fire science introduction.
All right. Okay. That passes 12-1, no vote being Member Bogus. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Member Klein. Member Davis, oh. No, Natalie, Member Klein needs her mic.
Thank you. In the fire science, safety and survival, page 280, I would move to strike all 4 bullet points under standard 3.
Is there a second? Second, back to you. Would you like to speak to the motion, Member Klein?
Yes, I think the bullet points are leading and should just remain as the standard. Plus, it's all very, I don't know, it's all negative. And I don't see the point in that. We just stick with examine reasons people resist change to safety improvements in the fire service.
Okay, discussion to that motion. Seeing none, let's vote. The motion is to strike the 4 bullet points on standard 3. Strand 1, standard 3. Let's see. Okay. That motion fails 9-4. The yes votes being members Bogus, Klein, Moss, and Green. Okay. Floor is open again. Member Wood?
Okay, Strand 1, Standard 5, I move to adopt the following substitute language. Explore examples of other industries that have used leadership, management, and supervision to develop components of safety culture and how those examples can be used to improve safety within fire service.
Is there a second? Speak to the motion.
Yes, so the original motion coming out of the writing committee was a comparison between what's happening in other industries and how that can be used. But as it moved to standards and assessment, that comparison factor was removed. It just said explore examples of other industries. And so I'm just trying to take out the words that I think that were a concern in the initial with the advocating or that activist language, and just putting it back to let's look at these and compare the good things they've done and how we can use those in within fire safety and service.
Okay, discussion to that motion. Seeing none, let's vote. Need one more, I think. Nope, there we go. All right, that motion passes 11-2. The no votes being members Klein and Bogus. Okay, back to Member Wood.
And this is my final one. Performance skill in fire science, safety, and survival. I move to adopt the language as submitted by the writing committee, which was write a one-page paper on your views regarding the need to create health and safety parameters for organization accountability.
Seconded. Would you like to speak to the motion?
This just simplifies it. It puts it back to where they needed to focus on the health and safety parameters, not necessarily transparency and accountability in an organization. It puts the focus back on health and safety, which is the original intent.
Which strand is this again, or standard?
Yeah, strand 2. So if you go down to
Let's see.
strand 2.
That might get me there quicker, or not. Any discussion of that motion? Just looking up where this fall. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Motion is to adopt the language as submitted by the writing committee, which would be adding back health and safety parameters for organizational accountability rather than organizational transparency and accountability around the health and safety parameters for the organization and members within. I think one more. One more? Member Real.
Member Real?
Member Real? Sorry, we're voting for there we go. Okay, that passes 12-1. No vote being Member Bogus. Thank you. Member back to Member Wood.
I move to adopt the standards for fire science, safety, and survival.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adopt the standards for fire science, safety, and survival? Seeing none, please vote. Need one more. That passes 11-2, the noes being members Bogus and Klein. Okay. So we are back. The floor is open. How many have we passed then or approved? How many courses? Yeah. So did we pass all those that were separated out? No, we still have a couple that were separated for consideration. We did.
Now the primary, we're back.
Okay, all right. That's what I want to make sure. Each of those that were separated out and divided, we have considered and approved. Gotcha. Okay. So the underlying motion. Got them all? Okay. So the underlying motion before the separation was to approve all of the courses, and that was 1 through 61. So what remains is all of those other than the 5 or 6. What was it? 5. All of them. Yeah, I don't think we have to include these. They were approved separately. So we have everything minus the 5 that were separately reviewed and approved. That's on the floor then. Is there any discussion of that, Member Klein?
I would just like to make one more motion that spreads over lots of the CTE standards, and that would be to strike anywhere the list of workplace skills that says the bullet points being communication, problem-solving, teamwork, critical thinking, dependability, accountability, legal requirements / expectations.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I would second it to find out why. I don't
Okay.
understand.
Member Klein, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure, and I'd like to have a much longer explanation prepared for this, but this is the soft skills that is bringing objective measurements in or testing students on or measuring their soft skill abilities, which would be an inherently biased measurement depending on who's doing the measuring. Much like was spoken to earlier about beauty being subjective, being in the eye of the beholder, these different workplace skills constitutes, I would say, the state passing judgment on mindsets and possibly other beliefs or attitudes as determined by a teacher who's observing and making that a major part of whether or not they pass a class or not, instead of just can they perform and demonstrate the vocational skill that we're looking for. A lot of these words are obviously nice sounding, wonderful words, depending on how they're defined or interpreted and used. And many of the definitions, if you read the literature under 21st century skills, workplace skills, essential skills, soft skills, life skills, they have a myriad of different euphemisms that they use surrounding these, of the 4 C's, the 6 C's, whatever. If you read the education literature from national and global entities, which this is being incorporated throughout the nation and the globe, these very same things, there is a movement behind that that ties in with like the environmental, social governance, and that's why they're called workplace skills, because they are tying into the ESG social credit scores. And like one of our public comments earlier today, I do not believe it is right for the state to be passing judgment or scoring, assigning numbers to students for these areas. We need to stick with the objective academic skills or vocational skills and score and test and measure students on those, not on these subjective, biased soft skills.
Thank you, Member Klein. Member Bogus.
Yes, sir. I just would ask the question, did the maker of the motion intend to have legal requirements on this list?
Member Klein.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if it was the intent to remove them all, or if there was a specific reason legal requirements. I'm not trying to be combative. I just don't understand why legal requirements is on this list.
That was put there, my understanding from CTE, based on vocational, and that one would probably be fine to leave, actually, because there are legal requirements and expectations around vocational courses that students need to understand, but that is kind of the outlier in the list. And so, if we wanted to leave legal requirements and expectations, I would be fine with that.
Is that a friendly? Is that a motion?
I just wanted clarity.
It just doesn't, it just kind of seems weird having it hanging there by itself. So I moved to strike that along with the others. But
Okay.
if there was another way to incorporate legal requirements and expectations back in somewhere else or under a different term other than workplace skills, and I don't know if CTE or CTE specialists have, recommendation for how that could be kept in there, but under something else besides workplace skills.
Okay, so do you want to let it ride for this vote and then see where that takes us?
If someone wants to amend to take it out, otherwise I'll just leave it in,
Okay.
unless CTE is here and can speak to that and say if they can put it somewhere else.
Okay. Not hearing any. Member Hymas.
I'm just going to briefly speak against this motion. We're talking about CTE here. We're not talking about the general population of courses. This is specified. All of these bullet points are needed in these fields. They're important to discuss when you go into a trade or prepare. I mean, we're talking high school level students who most likely are looking at CTE fields in order to say, okay, do I want to go in this direction? So for me personally, I believe that these are important. I'd hope to keep them in.
Okay, thank you, Member Hymas. Further discussion of the motion? Okay, the motion is to strike workplace skills everywhere where they are found in the standards. With that, let's vote.
Motion is to strike them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what our employers want CTE graduates to have.
Okay, we're Got four more. Four more votes. Speak now or forever. All right, one more.
This is exactly what career, part of career.
All right, 11-2, that fails. The yes votes being members Klein and Bogus. Okay, floor is back open. The motion underlying was to approve all of the remaining course standards that have not yet been voted upon. Any final discussion? Seeing none, let's open that for a vote.
Yeah, it is draft 2. Yeah, 'cause that's what.
Draft 2 as amended. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's
Switch up.
let's get it right. Sorry. That was me. I didn't announce it right either. Yes.
Do we need to vote on the entire draft if we've already made our vote clear on the individual courses? Because
it's the remaining.
We divided to pull out 5 and debated and amended those, so it's those that are remaining, 56. So let's see. Yeah, let's say that other than those, remaining, maybe remaining is all we need. The remaining CTE course standards. Okay.
No, did I miss it?
We need 2 more or 1 more? 1 more. Okay, that passes 11-2. The no votes being members Klein and Bogus. Okay. With that, I think we are back to Chair Booth, correct?
That's it, I think.
Is that everything for standards and assessment?
I'm pretty sure.
Sorry?
Patty has a comment.
Dr. Norman, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure we're clear. The final motion that we had on there was to approve the remaining courses as amended. The remaining courses, is it the 61 or is it the 56 that were reviewed today? Because we still have courses to review tomorrow.
Those that were moved today, other than those that were divided out and considered and approved separately. So I may not be doing the math right. Did we have 61 that came before us today?
No.
How many came before us today?
59.
59 of the 60, we don't know. Hold on really quick.
I can count on my fingers.
I thought 61 came to the floor, 5 were divided and reviewed and
Yeah,
approved
all
separately.
61, all
and that left
61 were in the
56.
list. We do have some tomorrow, though. So that's why we want to
Okay.
make sure. There's teaching as a profession too. We still have some courses to approve tomorrow for draft
Okay.
2 that were not in this backup for the.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we have 4 left.
So we had the 61 that were listed, went through a private pilot, and then 5 were divided out, and the remainder were passed together.
Except for 4. Okay.
Except for, are those 4 out of these 61 or those 4 others?
They weren't included.
Yeah, I think there's 4 on top of the 61, right?
I'm pretty sure they were.
I'm hearing a yes and a no.
Yeah, let me look.
In the chair's agenda, I
Is it
got
61?
61, but does that include the 4 for tomorrow? Okay.
This is,
I'm hearing from Sybil, we got 61 that were on the docket today and 4 more tomorrow. Yeah, I just
Yeah, those were not-
want to make sure folks know what's what.
61 is all
Okay.
there,
They were
and
not
we have
today's
4
list.
tomorrow,
Okay.
total of 65 courses.
Okay, all right. So the 61 that are listed in the memo, this is in the
Total
chair's memo, but I assume it's
Okay.
the agenda.
So we have the final math. We had
Okay.
61 today. We have 3 tomorrow.
I'm counting commercial as one. You're right.
61 is the list. So sorry. Thank you. I apologize.
Sorry. Okay, so
61, we have 4 tomorrow for a total of 65 courses. Thank
okay,
you.
we got her. Good. All right, we're set. I think we passed it right. So we are, yes, we do need another quick break. We are up to general session and reports and requirements. So let's take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.